it's that time again. It is time for Diary of a Physicist Farmgal, and this is episode number 30. I am Deborah, and I am a rabid crafter. I like to do all the crafts. I knit, I crochet, I sew, I quilt. I like to make baskets, I like to make jewelry, and I'm learning to make soap. I'll do any craft once and twice if I like it. I am also a professor of physics and astronomy at a local university where I teach courses on physics, astrophysics, which is my area of specialty, and also meteorology, which is what our science segment is going to be about today. I also do voluntary planetarium shows for school groups, and I participate in activities to encourage women and minorities to become involved in STEM fields. And last but not least, I am a farmer. I am a third-generation family farmer. My family has lived on this farm for over a century, and we've owned it for all of my lifetime. I moved back here in 2005. I moved away in 1992, but I moved back in 2005 to save the family farm from bankruptcy. And I have done that, fortunately, thank goodness. I raise grass-fed beef cattle. I also raise Appaloosa and paint horses. I also raise show-quality rabbits and heritage poultry. And I have a herd of rescued miniature horses, miniature donkeys, and a miniature mule named Pumpkin who thinks she rules the roost. And last but not least, as you can tell from my sweet little co-host Willie here, I am fur kid mom to 14 dogs, 6 indoor cats, and an undetermined number of outside barn cats. So if you think any of that sounds interesting, y'all come along with me and let's get on down the road here to Diary of a Physicist Farmgal, episode number 30. Okay, you can find us on social media here at Buckthorn Farms YouTube channel. That's the name of my family farm. And also, that is also the farm Facebook page name. Here, Willie, you got to sit still, brother. You want it in here, you got to be still. Okay, oh, Lord. My overalls are in a state here. Excuse me. You can also find me on Ravelry and on Instagram as Doc Firewoman. And there is a Ravelry group for the podcast, Diary of a Physicist Farmgal, where you can find out about our make-alongs and any activities or giveaways that we've got going on and just have some general chit-chat. And I am also on Twitter, but fair warning, I am a big old liberal snowflake, and Twitter is where I vent my political opinions. So, if that bothers your blood pressure like it bothers my blood pressure, maybe you shouldn't follow me on Twitter. But otherwise, I keep that thing to those ideas and comments to a minimum as much as possible on my other platforms of social media. So, also, I wanted to talk a little bit about our make-alongs. We have 2 current make-alongs. The first one is the Share the Warmth make-along, which is has been running since my birthday, or right after my birthday, and it runs until the end of the year. And the idea behind that make-along is we are doing things for charity. We are creating items to give physical warmth or emotional warmth to people or animals, however we need to do that. This time of year, there are a lot of people who struggle because of the cold weather. Right now, there are those terrible, devastating fires in California. You know, there are animals in need of care and attention. There's always good that can be done in this world, so let's do a little bit. You can make charity a broad range of things. I know that Antonia is knitting a scarf, or has finished now knitting her scarf for one of the patrons at the library that she feels like is maybe an elderly gentleman who needs a little pick-me-up. Also, I know that, I believe it's Downriver Knitter, she knitted a shawl that she's going to give to someone that she knows at a restaurant that she frequents. You know, just however you want to define charity is pretty wide open to me. Knitted knockers are great, however you want to do it. So just let's do some good in the world, shall we? You can do things for animals, yes you can. Or you can do things for human beings. I don't care, but let's just do some good. That runs till the end of the year. There is a chatter thread, and there's also an FO thread up on the Ravelry group right now, and we will be giving away, I'm probably going to draw for 2 different prizes from the FO thread, maybe 3. We'll just see how it goes between now and then. And we'll go from there. So please check that out. Now, the other make-along that is currently active is the I Am Worth It make-along. The I Am Worth It make-along is where we're going to do something for ourselves. Very often while we may knit for ourselves or crochet for ourselves, there's always, seems like, that special yarn or that certain piece of fabric or some project that we've put on hold and put on hold because it's almost like it's the holy grail and we are afraid to finally start it because it's like the magic will be broken. But remember, these things are made to be used and to be seen and to be created, so don't let their potential go unfulfilled. Also, we're doing this for ourselves because at the holiday time it is very easy to let ourselves run out of gas, you know, to let ourselves empty our emotional and spiritual cups. And so we need to be able to rejuvenate ourselves as well. And you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people or other critters. Feathers has decided she's going to lay on a feed sack. What are you doing? Come here. You're a good girl. Yes. I have some feed sacks stacked up over there that I'll tell you about in a little bit. So that make-along is also running until December 31st. And it is a one thread participation only. You do not have to finish your object. The idea is let's just get it started. And I have some prizes that I'm going to give away for that as well. I will probably show those next time. I've showed them a couple of times in the past, so I'll show those next time. Now, I will make you aware of some other things that are going on with some friends of mine's podcasts. Laura from A Crocheting Hoovian has several different make-alongs running. One that I will tell you about, I know there is a Year of the Sock make-along because I know a lot of people are prolific sock knitters. I am not in any way, shape, or form a prolific sock knitter, but I try. It's pretty sad, actually, but, you know, I've got some progress on one. I'll show you. But anyway, so if you've made some socks, go over and check out her Ravelry Group. Feathers, get figured out over there, would you? Come here. All right. Are you going to get settled down? Okay. Are you satisfied now? Okay. Maybe we're okay now. I got Muffins all upset. She's in here too, and she's kind of the overseer of the little dog. She's my, I don't know if you can see her down here. Hi, Muffins. Hi, Muffins. She's a good girl. Muffins is the caretaker of all these little guys because when they go out, she makes sure she sits out there on the bottom step until I've got them all back in so that they won't get left outside because they can actually get through my fence in a couple of spots. So, but anyway, so, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Laura from A Crocheting Hoovian. She also runs a virtual knit night group. So if you will follow her on Instagram, A Crocheting Hoovian, she has a virtual knit night group on Friday night where you can log in and sit and knit and visit with people. It's a fairly laid back, group of people. You don't have to be knitting while you're on there. I know some VKNs prefer you to be knitting or whatever, but this is just a good supportive group of people. I encourage you to go check that out. Also, she has a group me group where if you don't want to be on the virtual knit night, because some people are a little camera shy, and I totally get that. I totally get that. I go on there looking like in a horrible state at times, but if you go on there and talk with Laura, she will, if you follow her on Instagram, you can be added to the group me chat. And again, it's a good place to find out about different patterns and to visit with people, and it's just a good support system. So go check that out. Now, she is in conjunction with Army Wife Knit Life, Jessica, my friend Jessica, who has also a podcast, Army Wife Knitting Life podcast. She and Laura are running a joint make-along called Sensational Stripes, where if you are knitting anything that has stripes in it, it doesn't have to be self-striping yarn, it just has to be striped. So it could be something that you stripe manually, I guess is the word for that. Okay. You can enter that make-along, and that is running through the end of the year. Now, Vanessa from A Historian Knits is also a good friend of mine. She is running 2 make-alongs right now. The first one is the Pop Culture make-along that ends December 1st, where if you can tie the yarn or the pattern or somehow tie it to popular culture in some way, and she's pretty flexible on this, you can enter your finished objects in that make-along. And then also, she has a make-along for any of her patterns. She has 2 paid-for patterns, 1 free pattern already on Ravelry, and she's about to post a second free pattern. Her 2 paid-for patterns are the ups and downs and the stuck in a porthole socks, and those are both movie references. And then her free pattern is also a movie reference. It's 88 miles per hour, which is a Back to the Future reference. And then her new pattern is called Popcorn and Toast Socks. They're all sock patterns, and that's a reference to the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special. So all of those patterns would qualify for the pop culture make-along. So go check her out too. She has all 3 of these ladies' podcasts are well worth watching. We're all small but mighty right now, and we're all good friends and support each other. So go check out any of that group. So yeah. Also, last but not least, the stitch marker swap and progress keeper swap that I had announced back that closed on Halloween. I have sent those addresses to everyone on Ravelry, and those, I know people are starting to mail those out. So let's try to have those in the mail by December 1st. That way everybody can get their stitch markers in time for the holidays. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. You're only asked to send 1. If you want to send more, that's entirely up to you. I know some people are sending a couple. I'm going to send a stitch marker and progress keeper pair. I think is what I'm going to do to the people I signed myself up with. So anyway, so let's do that, and then I might run one of those later on if that seems to go well with people. I might try to run another one of those because we can always use more stitch markers and everything. Okay, so I think that's all of our social media and make-along news for today. So we're going to move on now and talk about finished objects. Okay, I have a couple of finished objects this week. The first thing that I will show is I finished some feed sack bags for some of my friends from the virtual knit night group. I made 4 different bags. 2 ladies asked for 2 different bags, or set of 2 bags. So I made this is one of my cattle mineral bags. And then this is an egg ration chicken feed bag, and they're both lined with blue checked or blue gingham fabric, I guess you could say. And then I also made this purple bag out of a horse feed bag. And then I made, the last but not least, I made this poultry feed bag with the duck and the chicken on it too. And the horse feed's lined with some yellow fabric, and this is lined with some nice blue fabric. So this is like a blue twill. These are great bags because they're very, very roomy. They work really well to carry. I carried an Afghan project around in them. You can put groceries in them. They do have a boxed bottom on them, so they'll stand up if you need to sit things down in the bottom of them. But a lot of bags are really pretty, and it's a shame to just throw them away or burn them or whatever. So I'll try to recycle where I can. In fact, one of the ladies that I'm following on Facebook, she has driving horses. Her name's Karen, and she said that she sends her feed sacks, because she doesn't sew, but she sends her feed sacks and her husband's old worn out blue jeans, and the lady strips up the legs of the blue jeans and makes handles for the bags. I just use webbing, but that's a great idea to recycle some blue jeans, because I have some blue jeans that have, well, they've just seen better days, and the holes are in places where I don't feel like I can wear them out in public anymore. But anyway, so maybe I need to do that with them. So anyhow, so that's part of my finished objects. My next things that I'll show again are quasi-finished objects. I've got 2 more blocks done on my Marine Life my Marine Life crochet along. It's not a mystery crochet along. This is my seahorses. That's what I was working on last time I recorded. So I finished my seahorse block, and then I started and finished my dolphin. Okay. So I got those done. I'm a week behind. I'm working on block number 9, and block 10 was released last Friday, so I'm still a little bit behind because I tried to finish this next object, and I spent all my energy trying to finish it. But we've got, there's 12 total blocks, so we've got 9, 10, 11, 12. I've got 3.5 because I'm halfway through the 9th one. Now my last finished object's one that I'm pretty proud of. It is my In the Rough Mystery Knit Along, and it has been revealed. The clue has been revealed now, and I finished this. Okay, this is a pattern by Michelle Steed, Crafty Flutterby on Instagram, and it is a beautiful beaded shawl, and you can see here the beading down at the bottom. It is so hard to show off beading, I have decided. It's really hard to see that very well. But anyway, so there's some beautiful beading. And I apologize for the cruddy lighting. It is overcast and snowing outside. Not sticking, but snowing outside today. But anyway, so the yarns that I used were... Let me see if I can fix that lamp. That's part of my problem, I think. I don't know if that's better or worse. I don't have on a lick of makeup, so I can't judge by how I look, whether it's better or worse. But anyway, the purple yarn is Primrose Yarn Company in the colorway Blackberry. There we go. And then, so this is Primrose Yarn Company in Blackberry, and then this is Expressions Fiber Arts Snow Leopard, which is a nice variegated brown. There's browns, grays, and every now and then there's a little bit of a plummy color that matches this blackberry really well. So I finished that in time to wear it to East Texas Fiber Festival, and I got a lot of compliments on it, so I was pretty proud of that. And it was my first attempt at a beaded shawl, and once I finally got the right tool going on, it was not so bad. Okay, so there's my beading, and it was in the rough because there are diamond motifs in here for diamond in the rough. And I kind of like that because Arkansas, where I live, is the only state where you can visit a diamond mine, and what you dig up, you get to keep. Crater of Diamonds State Park here in Arkansas. You can go dig for diamonds, and people do find them. And the fun thing is carat per carat, they are more valuable than many other diamonds on the market because they're certified. When you find one, you get a certificate, and they are conflict-free diamonds. So they come from, they're not blood diamonds. So they're actually worth more per carat than diamonds from conflict zones. So yeah, and a lot of people have found some, you know, 3, 4, 5, 10 carat diamonds down there, so that's all right. Plus you can find other gemstones as well. It's an old volcanic neck pipe, so there's a lot of gemstones there. I don't know what they're barking about, who knows. But anyway, so those are my finished objects for this week, and so now we're going to move on to works in progress. I meant to mention my sweater that I have on. I did not make this sweater. I have not jumped on the sweater knitting bandwagon, although the people in the virtual knit night have tried to sucker me in. I haven't done it yet. This is actually a sweater I bought in Scotland. Can't remember if it was the last time Keith and I went or the time before, but this sweater is at least 16 years old. And, you know, it's seen plenty of better days. It had developed some pretty large holes, so I did manage to sew those up. I wear it when I go fishing, and I also wear it when I'm out feeding on cold days. It's very comfortable. You know, I bought it before I really knew how to properly take care of knitwear, but it's been a very durable sweater, and it was from a shop in, see there's a hole there that I need to sew up. It was from a shop in Aberdeen, Scotland, and I have worn the tail end off of it. There were some big holes that had developed. I need to sew up these smaller ones too. So just over the years, the yarn has gotten worn, and I've caught it on things when I've been working outside and stuff. But it's my go-to, I need to warm up sweater when it's cold outside, and I've been feeding, or I wear it out when I'm feeding. Okay, so my works in progress are in my Kitty Cat's Mood bag from Fat Bottom Bags. I picked this up at my local yarn shop. I am working on this week's installment of the Marine Life crochet along. It is the block number 9, and it is the manta ray, and it's kind of a mess because I'm carrying several different yarns across on it, or I've got several different yarns attached to it because I'm working on a section that's got several different colors in it. It is a manta ray, so you can see his little, his little face there. I just finished row number 25 and I'm getting ready to turn the corner and go back. So I'm carrying, I've got the light blue, this darker blue I'm holding double because it's a little bit thinner, and then this gray is actually two different grays that were a thinner yarn that I'm holding double, and then the white. So I'm carrying 4 different colors of yarn on this thing right now, and I've got butterflies hanging off the back of it where I've like bobbins. Instead of doing bobbins, I'm doing just the butterflies. So that's my manta ray. You can see a little face there, okay? The block looks like this, and this is by Two Hearts Crochet. So this week's pattern is Killer Whales, so I'm ready. Let me see if I can reach it. Oh, this week's pattern is a mama and baby killer whale, so I'm excited to get on to that one. And then we have an anglerfish, and then a clownfish and angelfish, I think is what it is. It's not an angelfish, it's a blue fish, like Dory. Is that kid's movie? Nemo and Dory? I don't know. I haven't seen it. I just know it through, you know, hearing other people talk about it. But anyway, that's my Marine Life Crochet Along by Two Hearts Crochet. I'm just making that out of scrap acrylic yarn because I want to be able to wash it. Definitely need to be able to wash it. So that's my first work in progress. My second work in progress is I got past the turning point on the baby blanket that I'm making as a gift for my neighbors who are expecting their first grandchild, or the young man that helps me with my cattle's first child. So I'm actually turned the corner on this, and I've put a couple rows on it. Going back, I need to go get my other 2 balls of yarn. I'm holding some acrylic baby sport weight yarn double on this. It's going to be a little boy, they know. So I had the blue yarn, and I just decided I would use it, not because I think boys have to have blue and girls have to have pink. I just thought it was pretty. So anyway, so I'm just doing a corner to corner crochet on this, just something very simple and easy, and I need to go ahead and get that finished up so I can get that to them sooner rather than later. So yeah, so that's my next work in progress. My next work in progress is in my Tesla Knits periodic table bag, and I actually worked on this today. I am back past where I ripped out on the couch and cracker socks. If you remember, I was knitting them really loosely and they looked terrible. So I'm actually back beyond where I stopped, and I'm doing a much better job, I think, on my tension. Now, I kind of went off the track just a little bit there, but I'm doing a much better job on my tension. This is a pattern by Julia from the Happy Knitting Podcast called the Couch and Crackers Socks. It was her first pattern. And it's kind of hard to tell with this yarn, but every once in a while there's a little motif like the holes in a Ritz cracker, or not Ritz cracker, but just a cracker, like a saltine cracker. On here every once in a while. So yeah, so I'm pretty tickled with how those are turning out. I think once I finish this next repeat, I've got 2 more rows to go on the 3rd repeat, and I think by the time I do a 4th repeat, they'll be long enough for me to turn the heel on them. It's actually a top down pattern, but I like doing them bottom up. So who cares which way you go as long as you get them done, right? I'm just knitting that out of some Craftsy Cloudborne DK yarn. I think this colorway is called Josh's Cat. It's just a variegated color yarn. I just wanted something woolly and cozy to wear. So if I get those done, that'll be pair number 6 for the year for me. And considering I'd never knit a pair of socks in my life starting in January, as of January of this year, I guess I'm doing all right. So the ones are working much better. My friend Agatha did give me some zeros that I'm going to try. I'm going to wind up another ball of yarn. Once I get to the heel on these, I'm going to start another pair of socks, I think. We'll see. But anyway, so these are the Couch and Cracker Socks by Julia from the Happy Knitting Podcast in my awesome periodic table bag from Tesla Knits, because, I got to have that periodic table bag. Okay, my last work in progress that I'm going to show you is in a new project bag that was given to me as part of the Christmas, or the project bag swap, holiday project bag swap. I was partnered with Laura from A Crocheting Hoovian, and she got me this awesome big project bag from the Silver Shed USA. I love it. It's really, really big, and it's nice and spacious. It's got a strap on it where you can carry it like a purse if you want to. There's a webbing strap for it if you want to carry it like that. It's got a nice zipper pull on it. And in this bag, I have something that I had talked about making, but you had not seen. Now, another thing that she gave me was a nice little combination needle cozy and notions pouch with a built-in ruler from April 9 Designs. She knew that I really loved April 9 Designs, and she knew that I wanted one of these, and she found this really cute, adorable kitty cat one for me, and that was also part of my swap gift, so I was very tickled about that. In this bag, I am making the Boneyard shawl, and I am in the middle of a row, so of course it's not going to be so easy to show, but it is a free pattern by Stephen West, and it is a very simple DK weight shawl. It's in stockinette, but every so often you knit back instead of purl back, and you get these raised bumps. You get these garter bumps on there. Okay, so I just wanted to do something DK weight or heavier, since I've knit a lot of fingering weight shawls lately, and I wanted to do something that moved a little quicker. So yeah, so that is my Boneyard shawl. It is kind of hard to tell much about it because I did not get through my row. I got stopped for some reason in the middle of my row. But anyway, and then, oh, and I was going to mention the little Progress Keeper, the Kitty Cat Progress Keeper came with my needle cozy, because Charlotte from April 9 Designs usually includes a Progress Keeper with your order of your bag that matches it in some way. So that is the Boneyard Shawl by Stephen West, and I am knitting it out of Leon Alexander yarns, and this is a color you can't order from him. This is a shop exclusive color to the Twisted Pearl in Conway, Arkansas. I had gone to a trunk show and seen this yarn, and this is on their Duke DK base, and this colorway is called Party on Prince Street. Now he has some other colorways that are somewhat similar to this, but not exactly like this, because this is a shop exclusive colorway, and I really like how it's knitting up. I think the colors are pretty in it. And I'm just going to do the whole shawl. I've got 3 balls of it, and then the whole shawl is going to be made out of that, and I think it'll be pretty. And I can't wait to get it done because I think it'll be nice and warm. So that is the Boneyard Shawl by Stephen West in my Silver Shed USA bag. That was a gift from Laura. So I'm very tickled about that. So those are my works in progress for this week. So now let's move on and talk a little bit about future crafting. Okay, so a couple of future crafting things. I think probably tonight I'm actually going to cast this little project on. I looked up, I have decided that because I'm a loose knitter, when I'm knitting something where it matters, not like a shawl, well, sometimes shawls matter because you don't want to run out of yarn, but like for hats and stuff, I have decided that I need to knit things down at least 1, if not 2 needle sizes. So I'm going to cast this on to replace the very oversized She Rises hat. This is in a bag, a Halloween bag from a Magpie Knits. She has a shop on Etsy. She is Agatha, who is a friend of mine in our virtual knit night group. And I got to meet her at East Texas Fiber Festival. So she dyes yarn and also makes project bags. And in this bag, I have a ball of yarn from Ba Fibers from Sonoma, California. And this color is called Cat Pink. And I showed this. This was a gift from Mary, Miss Mary, or Mary, So Mary Knitter, or Mary Knitter. And she was the one who was kind enough to gift me my Women in Science bag that I'm so proud of, and gave me some prizes for some knit-alongs with some bags and some knitted knocker yarn. She's just been very, very sweet to me. And she's also the one that gave me the cool book that I talked about last week. I am going to knit the She Rises hat by Riza Knits. I had knit it once before, and remember it was way too big, so I'm going to re-knit it in this cat pink yarn, remember, that's named for Cat Coyle, the woman who helped sort of spearhead the pussy hats for the Women's March, and also helped with the Welcome Blanket project. So I think that's a perfect yarn to make that She Rises hat out of by Riza Knits. And also, if I can get it done in time, it'll qualify for the A Historian Knits Pop Culture Make-Along. So I want to try to cast that on tonight. We'll see. Now, the other the other project is also an A Historian Knits themed project. Vanessa actually sent me this cool yarn for my birthday. This is a yarn by, let's see if it tells on the back. Artisan Yarn by Abby. Artist Yarn by Abby, I think. And this is the cheeseburger striped sock yarn. It's supposed to look like a cheeseburger. Right? Oops. There you go. So you've got the tan for the bun, and the ketchup, and the cheese, and the mustard, and the brown for the burger. And so I think that's adorable, and I want to knit one of Vanessa's sock patterns out of it. So it's self-striped, so I think I'm going to knit the 88 miles per hour sock out of these. Or the stuck in a purple sock. I don't know which one, but I'm going to knit one of them. So that'll, if I can get those done, which I won't probably get those done by December 1st, but if I get them done by the end of the year, they'll qualify for the striping, the sensational stripes make along. So I'm going to try, once I get to the heels on these other socks, I'm going to cast these on. Okay, then I had showed the yarn for this a couple of weeks ago, but I am going to knit the Ways to Grow shawl by Michelle Steed, who is the one that did the In the Rough mystery knit along that I just completed. The Ways to Grow shawl is a shawl where you decide how big it is, and you decide what order you put these patterned pieces in. And it's a paid-for pattern on Ravelry, but you can see there it's just some really pretty lacy goodness. And I am going to knit that out of these 3 yarns. I showed these once before, but I'll show them again just very quickly. This is some 100% cashmere. It's lace weight, but I think I can go ahead and mix it with these other 2 and be okay. It's a little bit thinner than they are, but I think it'll be all right. It's 100% reclaimed cashmere that I bought from Thoughtful Rose Supply in Texas. She goes and thrifts old thrift store sweaters and then reclaims the yarn for sweaters. And this 100% cashmere skein is, I think it's 780 yards. It does have one knot in it somewhere, but nah, who cares? And it is, oh no, I'm sorry, it's not 100% cashmere. It's wool and cashmere. It was like $10. And it's a gorgeous blue. It's kind of hard to tell. I bet it looks better back here with the light from the window hitting it. So I'm going to pair that or couple that with 2 yarns from Chicken Coop Dye Works. Okay, these are both on her Twinkle Toes sock base, which is 75 superwash merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina, and this is Wonder Woman, and this is Fireworks. So I met her at East Texas Fiber Festival. Carolyn, she's a very nice lady. I really love her yarn, and I'm going to put these together and make the Ways to Grow shawl. And look, Logan would be proud of me. I learned something from class, because there's a nice complementary pairing, and then here's a yarn that combines both of those kind of together in it. So, ta-da! Yay! Yay, I learned something. Logan, aren't you proud? Okay, so that's going to be the Ways to Grow shawl by Michelle Steed. Okay, let me put these up back in their little bag here so something doesn't go amiss with them. Then, the last thing that I'm going to show in future crafting is something that I've actually had the yarn for since probably February, March. And I haven't started it yet, but I need to and I want to. It is the Changes shawl by the Knitting Expat. And I watched her work on this shawl on her podcast, kind of show the progression of it. And there's what it looks like. It's a nice big shawl, and I think it's just really lovely. I like all the color in it. So I want to knit that with, it takes 2 full skeins of fingering weight sock yarn, or fingering weight yarn, and I think 10 minis. So the body of the shawl I'm going to make out of this color. This is by Kim Marie Knit Knacks, and this is, in fact, all the yarn that I'm using for this is Kim Marie Knit Knacks, and this is a colorway called Steel, okay? And this is one of her singles sock yarns, and this is, let's see if it'll tell on here. It says fingering. It's 463 yards. Doesn't say what this particular base is called, but just says fingering. So anyway, yeah, so I'm going to knit that as the main body color, and then I'm going to pair that with, I got 2 packages of these very brightly colored neon mini skein sets to use as my minis. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I kind of hate to use the same set of colors over, but I think it'll be fine. I don't think it'll be a problem as long as I don't put them side by side. I think it'll work just fine. So anyway, so that's going to be my changes shawl, and I really want to start that soon, but I have the Midwinter Moon Mystery Knit Along by Larissa Brown starting in December, so I don't want to get too much on my plate and then just kind of go, bleh, I can't do it. So yeah, so that's my future crafting. So if you're just here for the crafts that I've completed, we're done with that part of the program, and I'm going to move on now to acquisitions. I know not everybody's into that. Now, I did go to East Texas Fiber Festival, and I did a whole separate video for the acquisitions from that Fiber Festival because I went a little nuts. And I admit to, I had saved my fair premium check to do that. So, you know, mission accomplished. But anyway, I did have some other acquisitions that I want to share with you, so I'm going to show those next. So if you're here for the craftiness and that's all you want to see, I'll see y'all next time. And if you want to hear about acquisitions and science and farm stuff, let's move on down to acquisitions. Okay, I want to show another part of my gift from Laura. Laura sent me several pairs of ChowGoo needles that she had gotten and she just didn't like, and she knows that I like using ChowGoos, so yay for that. I didn't show those because we all kind of know what knitting needles look like, but she also sent me this adorable little needle cozy, and I don't know who made this one. It was one that she had. It's got chickens on it, and see, I can clip it to my bag, I suppose, to keep up with it, but it's got chickies, chicks on it. Isn't that sweet? She knows I like the chickens. That was part of my, and she didn't have to send this because she'd already sent me that great bag and then that other Progress Keeper, or that other needle cozy. But then she was so sweet, and when she was at Rhinebeck, she thought a little old me, and she found this cute little bag from Erin Lane. And she knew that I would love it, both because of the animals on it and because of what it said. She knew that I would love it, and she picked that. So I really am grateful, Laura, for you thinking of me while you were having big fun at Rhinebeck. It makes me feel good to know that people think about me. So I appreciate that so much. Plus, I have a box in there that says I can't open it till Christmas. But it does have, oh, let me go get it. I'll be right back, because you got to see this too. Okay, I'm back. I had to show this. Laura is a very prolific amigurumi maker. Lacey's in here wagging her tail. And she knew that I loved giraffes, so she made me a giraffe. Isn't he adorable? Look at him little face. Oh, I love it. I just love that she made him for me. I kept him put up because I don't want the dogs to get a hold of him. So he's going to live in here in the sewing room where nothing bad can happen to him. And I just love him. I'm so tickled. Anyway, so I had to show that. She let me open that early. She didn't make me wait till Christmas for him because, you know, he would be in there in the dark in the box by himself, and we can't have that. No, we're not going to be ugly. No. I know. How Lacey. I acquired a couple more dogs when I opened the door to go get him. So, anyway, so that was a gift from Laura. And she was very sweet. She was my Advent calendar swap partner too. So I've got a box of Advent presents to open in there that I think I'm gonna do Vlogmas, and so you'll get to see what I got every day. Now the next thing that I got was a gift from Vanessa from the A Historian Knits podcast. She messaged me. She was doing a D-stash, Willie, and she said, I am getting rid of a bunch of Peyton's Croix sock yarn, and also there's some Knit Picks Felici in here. It looks like I just noticed that. How sweet of her to send me that. So she sent me all of this sock yarn. So I guess she's really wanting me to get my sock game going here. So I was pretty tickled with her thoughtfulness there. So I'm excited to make more socks. I'm going to try to do better. I'm feeling more confident in my ability now that I've got my gauge situation worked out. So I'm feeling more like making socks now. So this will be great. I won't have to buy sock yarn for, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 pairs of socks, and then some probably, that I won't have to worry about buying yarn for. So thank you very much, Vanessa. And also, she of course sent a very sweet little postcard in there with it, with some animals from Colorado, and she saw this bag and thought of me. So I loved that. Lovely little notions pouch, and she sent some lavender in with it to keep the moths at bay, and so that made everything smell really good. So I'm excited about that. So that was another acquisition this week. And then I wasn't going to buy any yarn before I went to East Texas Fiber Festival, and I did okay with my promise not to do that until I got an email from String Theory Colorworks showing some of their new colorways. And this is one of their colorways called Penumbra. Now she always sends a stitch marker that matches. This is, it's a complex stripe pattern, so it's got 7 rows Byzantium, 3 rows pale violet, 7 rows navy, 3 rows pale violet, 7 rows dark Irish, 3 rows pale violet, 7 rows black with speckles, and then 3 rows pale violet. So this is by String Theory Colorworks, who you know I love her yarn because it's all sciencey names. And I was able to resist, and I was able to resist, and I was able to resist until I saw that you could get a set of stitch markers / progress keepers with this particular colorway of yarn. And when I saw the moons and the stars and the unicorns and the Pegasuses, I was done for. So she doesn't do that with all of her yarns, but every now and then she'll have a limited edition set of stitch markers that will kind of match the yarn. So I was done for when I saw that. Honestly, I am not going to make socks out of this. I had tried to start the Wibbly Wobbly cowl back in the spring, and I was not a confident enough knitter to knit on small needles like that yet. But now that I've knit some socks, and now that I've knit on some small needles, I think now I am much more confident, and so I'm going to try that cowl again. I've also learned that I probably need to do a more elastic cast on, so like an old Norwegian cast on. But this is her Orbit base, which is, let's see, where'd it go? 80% merino, 20% nylon base, and her colorways are just amazing. All of her yarn, for the most part, is self-striping, and they're all sciencey, or the vast majority of them are sciencey based. I just love this, but I'm gonna try to make that wibbly wobbly cowl out of that colorway. If I got that done, that would also qualify for the sensational stripes. So maybe I need to get off my hiney and get that going. Anyway, last but not least, I joined the Celtic Year Shawl Club from Woolly Wonka Fibers, and what it is it's shawls, patterns, and colorways, and little extras based on the Celtic Wheel of the Year. And the first club came out for Samhain, okay, or Halloween, if you want to call it that. We got a card in there that's themed for that time of year. Samhain, which has just passed, is the time, it's the last harvest, it's the nut harvest, and it's when the world kind of goes into slumber for the winter. And so we got this beautiful card, and then the pattern is called the Calaveras shawl, based on the skulls from the Day of the Dead. And what I love is when you click on the information, it sends you to a link that tells you all about the history and traditions around both Samhain and Day of the Dead. So this is the shawl pattern. It's the Calaveras shawl. It's a single skein shawl. Okay. I call it an arrow shaped. I don't think that that's what it's called, but that's what I call it. But anyway, it's Woolly Wonka Fibers, and she has a podcast, and because she is both a knitter and a cross stitcher. But we got a skein of her Nimue sock yarn, which is 50/50 silk and superwash merino, and this colorway is called Spiced Apple. Is that not gorgeous? I love that color. That is just the most beautiful red, dark, beautiful apple red color that I've seen in a long time. So, also with the shawl, we got, Willie, stop. You don't need to be such a jealous heart. We got a set of little stitch markers. You can see there, we got a set of stitch markers that are leaves. They're fall leaves, and then there's gold beads on them like the winter leaves. And then we also got the beads for the shawl because the spine of the shawl is beaded. So I love, love, love this concept. So the next one will be coming out for Yule, which is in December 21st. It's the winter solstice. So every 6 weeks we get a new shawl pattern and a new skein of yarn. I know I'm not going to be able to keep up, but this might be my Christmas Eve cast on, because some people were talking in the virtual knit night about a Christmas Eve cast on, so this might be my Christmas Eve cast on. We'll see. But yeah, so I'm very pleased that I got in on that. That's the Celtic Wheel of the Year, or Celtic Year Shawl Club from Woolly Wonka Fibers. So those are my acquisitions. So now we're going to move on and talk about some science. Okay, so science, what's been going on at the university? We are winding down the semester. Next week, it's Thanksgiving in the United States. And so we are off next Monday. Well, we're off next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at the university. I purposely did not schedule a lab on Tuesday afternoon of next week. So after my morning labs, I'll be done for the week. And hopefully I can get some stuff done around here. I want to do some organizing in my spare room and move some of my more bulky craft supplies out of this room. Like the feed sack pile that's behind me, and my basket making stuff, which takes up a large footprint. So that maybe I can get better organized in here and get more stuff done. But so what has been going on is a couple of things. First of all, we had some cool guest speakers in my class the last couple of weeks. I invited one of our anthropology professors. He's over in the School of Social Work and I can't remember what the other part of that title of that department is, but he's actually an anthropologist, and he does a lot of work with Native American sites that are pre-European history here in the U.S., so what we would call Mississippian era or woodland era sites that are like 800 to 1400, so pre-European contact or pre-Columbus your contact. So he came and talked about how he uses physics in his research. He uses several instruments that are based on very important physics principles that we teach in our classes. So I thought it would be a neat opportunity for our students to see how they do remote sensing, and then also use magnetic fields and things like that to see where maybe burning has happened, like human-caused burning, where the ground is, they do use a density meter to look where the ground has been disturbed, so like dug up for pits and things. So he came and talked to my class one afternoon, and I thought that was really cool and interesting. They really enjoyed it. Then yesterday, I actually had one of my former students, Jeremy Jacobs, or I call him JJ. He did astrophysics research for me, but he actually was majoring in biological physics, and he went on to the University of Kentucky and got a master's degree and did a residency in medical physics, and he is a physicist at a cancer treatment center now. He is actually the physicist in charge of the treatment machines at a hospital that treats a lot of patients that have cancer, and he actually developed some new ways to treat people that are still being used by the program at the University of Kentucky. So he talked a lot this time. I'd had him talk to my class before, but this time he kind of talked about how is the physicist over the program involved with the patient from day one through the end of their treatment, and it was really neat to hear his perspective on all of those things. And then after that, we had gotten into a discussion last Wednesday in my class after the midterm elections about voting. We kind of got sidetracked because we've been talking about public policy and science, and we kind of got sidetracked and started talking about voting and about, you know, it seemed in the U.S. that whoever won, it was like winner take all, and then the other side didn't have much of a voice if they didn't have, you know, if they weren't in control of like part of the branch of government, one of the branches of government, when that seemed kind of strange because you might have two candidates that were very, very close. And then we got to talking about, well, really, it's not a two-party system, it's a multiple-party system, because we have like the Libertarian Party and the Independents and stuff like that that can run. And one of my students had mentioned that a math professor who is deceased now, but he had talked about how that some of the different fairness criteria for voting and how they can be violated, and he had like examples of different mechanisms of voting where weird things and anomalous things could happen. So right after that class, I actually had gone to a faculty development workshop and sat with one of our math professors, and I mentioned to him, and he said, actually, I have just done a talk on that. Would you? I said, oh, I would love for you to come talk to my class. So he came after JJ and talked, Dr. Barrell came and talked about fairness criteria for voting, and how if you do research, there's about 20 fairness criteria. He talked about the four most, you know, kind of the top four, and gave examples where the criteria was met, historical examples where the criteria was violated, and then cases where it didn't matter. And it was really interesting. And finally, one of my students said, is there any voting system that... Ellie Mae's unhappy. Somebody's on the bed in her spot. Let me go sort her out. Hang on. Okay, well, I've traded dogs, as you can see here. I got Wally right now. He is cold and not happy with the snow. But anyway, so Dr. Barrell said, or one of my students asked if there was one system that fit the 20 criteria that he was talking about, or fit all of the fairness criteria. And he said, yes, there is one. A dictatorship where only the dictator gets to vote, and only the dictator's vote is counted. And my student had said, oh, it's a dictatorship, I'm sure. And then when Dr. Barrell told him the answer, he's like, I didn't mean that, I didn't mean that. Every system has inherent anomalies that can happen. But anyway, so it was very interesting to see how math played a role in those things. So also too, I went to a really cool faculty development workshop. Actually, I had, before this, I had our Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, Angela Webster, come and talk to my students. And they did a really cool activity where she talked about, you know, why some minorities have more challenges than others in just America, the different, you know, different American stories, and how there's voluntary minorities and involuntary minorities, and how you know, even though those involuntary minorities may have been generations back, the repercussions of that generational, you know, those generational effects still play a role today. It was interesting. It gave my students some pause to do these activities because there were questions that had to do with religious preference, with financial issues, with gender, with sexuality, with disabilities. There were a couple of others. I can't remember what they all were now, but you picked up beads. You looked at the list of questions, and if there were all the ones you could answer yes to, you got a bead and put in your cup. And then you poured your cup out, and you looked at the differences in the different colors that people had collected. And so that was a good point of discussion for my students, and I think it really made some of my students who are minorities feel like that their voices were finally heard by some of their classmates who maybe didn't really understand. It's not because they're trying to be malicious, they just don't have a frame of reference of understanding some of the challenges that these students face. And sometimes that also makes them less likely to speak about the challenges as they face. And then about a week later, I went to what's called a Lunch and Learn, which are our faculty development luncheons, and it was a panel of minority faculty talking about things that had happened to them as faculty members. And I was glad that I got to hear some of their perspectives, because it gave me information that I can use to be a better ally, and also things that I can take back to my perspective in the classroom. So that was pretty important. So the last thing that I want to talk about today is winter weather. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how, you know, winter weather is kind of hard to predict for a couple of reasons. Weather itself is just a chaotic system, so it's kind of hard to predict what's going to happen with the weather system. But also, why do sometimes we get snow? Why do we sometimes get sleet? And why do we sometimes get freezing rain? Here in the South, we tend to get quite a bit of freezing rain. And freezing rain, you know, I know everybody makes fun of us going crazy when the first snowflakes fall and people rush into the store to buy milk and bread, which I've never understood that anyway. If I'm going to be cooped up in my house, the last thing I want is milk and bread. I want pizza and Diet Coke and some chocolate. You know, pizza and some Diet Coke and some chocolate to eat, and not milk and bread. But anyway, so but then a lot of what we get down here is not snow, it's freezing rain. And freezing rain is actually very dangerous because it can build up very quickly on surfaces. And a guy that I dated for a while worked for a utility company, and it only takes 1/4 of an inch of ice built up on a power line to snap it. And we are notorious here for about every 4 to 5 years having a pretty significant ice storm that brings down power lines over a significant area. And there's a lot of the area in this county that's national forest, and it's not easy to get to. So ice is a big deal, and it can be very, very dangerous. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you get the different weather profiles. So I'm going to cut this here and flip the camera around so I can show you some pictures on my laptop. Okay, so the first criteria, this is from the National Weather Service, or it's actually from the National Severe Storms Lab, but you get snow when the profile of the temperature is below freezing all the way from the cloud height where the precipitation forms to the ground. So this is the freezing line here, or this is the zero temperature line here. And if the profile of the atmosphere's temperature is all the way from where the precipitation forms to the ground, it will fall as snow. Now, not all snow is flakes. Some snow is graupels, or little cylinders. You only get flakes at a very specific temperature. So, but it still is classified as snow as if it forms in a frozen state and it stays in that state all the way to the ground. Okay, so we can contrast that with sleet. Okay, sleet is where you have part of a layer that's shallow, that's warm. So you have frozen precipitation form as snow, and then it falls through a layer that's a fairly shallow layer of warm air that will partly melt the snow. And then it goes on down into a deeper cold layer, and the slushy drops refreeze, and they form a hard layer on the outside, and that becomes sleet. So sleet is the little pellets that you see sometimes. So it starts out as snow because you're below freezing, but then there's a layer, a shallow warm air layer, and then there's a deeper cold layer. Okay, so that's what forms as sleet. Now the last one is freezing rain, where there you still have cold, warm, cold, but the warm layer is deep enough that it melts completely whatever fell in frozen form up here. And then it falls through this deeper layer. It completely melts and becomes liquid. But the problem is it becomes super cooled. Okay, it becomes super cooled water. And you've got this cold layer. And the minute that it touches any surface, it will instantly freeze on that surface. So super cooled water is pretty interesting. I'll link a video from Veritasium about super cooled water. But this is what happens to us. We'll get cold air aloft. You'll get mostly warm air right above the ground, and then you'll be cold on the ground, and then whatever it touches, the water instantly freezes and forms a thick freezing rain layer on it. So part of the reason why winter weather is so hard to predict is you don't know. I mean, knowing how deep this layer is a little bit challenging. I mean, radar technology is much better than it used to be, but it still has a problem. So this is what freezing rain will cause, okay? This is a photograph from that same website where it literally looks like the rain froze in drips, okay? And that can be very dangerous because all of that ice accumulates and it's very heavy. And here's more of like the pelletized form of sleet, okay? Which kind of looks like pellet ice like you get at Sonic. And then, of course, here's snow. So it all has to do with what the temperature profile of the atmosphere is. Is it freezing all the way from the cloud to the ground? Or does it go through a shallow warm layer to form sleet? Or does it go through a deeper warm layer to form freezing rain? So that's part of the reason why it's so hard to predict winter weather. Okay, so that's just a little bit about winter weather. I thought I would share that because I know that sometimes people get really frustrated with weather forecasting, but you know, they do kind of the best they can with the tools they have available. And technology is much better now than it used to be. And, you know, sometimes systems stall out and sometimes they just don't, you know, rain where you think they're going to or sleet where they think they're going to. So anyway, so that's all I've got to talk about science. So I'm going to move on now and I'm going to talk about farm life. Trixie, you're rude. You're so rude. Oh, Pumpkin. She's a good girl. Oh, that's a good girl. What a good baby. What a good girl. That's a big step. That's a big step. What a good girl. What a good girl. Hey, she's a good girl. Yes. Okay, so a few things that have been going on here on the farm. Again, it's snowing. It was snowing again when I went out to see what was going on with Ellie Mae. It had started snowing again out there. So, you know, couple of, you know, sort of more personal things. I found out that Miss Glenda, my senior pen pal, passed away. And the way that I found out is that I had sent her a card and it came back with one of those yellow return to sender stickers on it marked deceased. And this bothered me for a few reasons. The first one is she was the same age as my mom when my mom died. And she had lost her husband about a year before. She had told me that in her letters. And so that bothered me. And she would always seal her envelopes with a little sticker and then sealed with a kiss and a hug. And my mom would always write that on. She would leave me little notes in my lunchbox my freshman year of college. I still have them all. She would write them on a napkin. And she would send me cards like this. And then when I moved away to go to graduate school, she would send me letters with like cartoons and cards and stuff. And there was a song called 26 Cents back then called A Penny for Your, and the line was it, a penny for your thoughts, a quarter for the call, and all of your mama's love. And she sent me, I still have it somewhere, it's an index card with a quarter and a penny taped to it. And Love Mom on the bottom of it. And so this bothered me for that reason. Because I do miss my mom a lot. I miss my dad too quite a bit. And I miss him this time of year when I ride on the tractor and putting hay out. And the fender of the tractor, you know, I just kind of naturally rest my hand on the fender of the tractor. And there's a spot on that fender where all the paint's wore off. And it's worn off from my grandpa and my dad. And my mom helped in the hay too. And me riding with our hand on that tractor. And just over the 25, 30 years, I guess, well, it's been longer than that, 35 years we've had that tractor. You know, that's where all of our hands have sat. It also bothered me a little bit, though, because I had been writing Miss Glenda for the better part, well, over a year and a half. And I knew that she lived with one of her kids, one of her daughters. And I just wish that they had taken the time to send me a letter and just say, you know, I'm sorry to tell you that our mother has died. But I know not everybody thinks that way. They probably just think, oh, well, this person doesn't care. You know, they just were writing a letter to an old person to be nice. But it was more than that to me. So I actually got a sympathy card and sent a card I wrote to the family of on there. And it hasn't come back, so I'm assuming they didn't reject it. Anyway, that impacted me quite a bit. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I can't bring myself to throw that card away. But anyway, also too, several of my friends have lost pets in the last little while. And I know that's very hard. You know, it's not just a dog. It's not just a horse. It's not just a cat. Right now, I have a friend who one of her dogs is missing. Went to help her look on Monday, and she's just beside herself. It's an older dog, and she got out of the fence. The two younger dogs have come back, but the older dog is still missing. And it's been very cold here, and she's just worried to death about her. I hope, you know, Blackie, after the fire, went missing for 5 days. You know, we had taken her to a place to keep them safe because they had told us we were under mandatory evacuation overnight. And so I had taken her like 10 miles away from home, put her in somebody's dog pen, and they dug out. And Blackie was going home. And she was missing for 5 days. And she finally turned up. So I have to believe in my heart of hearts that Jazzy's going to show up. So Jazzy, you know, go home, Jazzy. Artemis, if you got, you know, or if you're a praying person, pray to whatever your gods of your choosing are, and let's get Jazzy home. And that made me think about, there's a new holiday. Someone I know posted an article about a 7-year-old in New Zealand has developed a new holiday called Wolfenoot. Wolfenoot. And it's going to be on November 23rd, and it's for wolves and people who take good care of dogs, people who are kind to dogs. And you are supposed to eat cake and roasted meat because dogs like meat. And I'll link the article to it because it was just really sweet. And I'm all about some Wolfenoot. So happy Wolfenoot almost on November 23rd. You know, Willie and I will wish you a happy Wolfenoot, right? Huh? You didn't like Wally in here, did you? That made you unhappy. No. Okay. All right. Other things that are going on here at the farm. I fixed my sink. Woo! I had asked a couple of people for some help, and they just were busy. And I just thought, you know, I can do this. And a friend of mine had given me some parts. She said, you can do this. Just look on YouTube. And I had sat around and waited. And I thought, one day I finally just got fed up. And I got on YouTube and I found this particular guy who went through and explained how to fix it, what was wrong. And then I got to looking under there and I thought, I just need to fix all this. And so I trucked myself on up to Lowe's and the guy that was waiting in that area didn't want to help me. He stood there and helped this guy, and I stood there and waited with my parts in my hand, and he walked off from me. But luckily there was a gentleman standing there in the next aisle over who was kind enough to help me. Got my parts, fixed everything, took what I didn't need back, and it works. It doesn't leak, it doesn't work, it works. There's no more bird feeder holding up the elbow joint. My dad, never let it be said my dad fixed anything right when halfway would do. He had this fence macrame project going on when I came home where there was a hole in the fence, and he had an extension ladder, a folding chair, about 400 miles of baler twine, a tarp, a frame off of a trailer, and I'm like, Dad, this looks like an arts and crafts project, and by the time you'd done all this, you could have just fixed it right. And the only reason I found it is I said, where is the ladder? Oh, it's out there in the fence. And I'm like, by the fence? No, in the fence. It was integral to the fence. Anyway, also, my friend that I buy hay from came up and helped me change the battery cable ends on my tractor, so now it fires right up. Now that I've got the battery charged, it fires right up, so I'm really happy about that. So those are a couple of things that have been going on here lately. It has been very cold, so I have been making sure that all the animals have plenty of hay in front of them and have warm straw for bedding. I put some blankets out. I've moved my little wagon up onto the porch to get it out of the weather, and the kittens, the young barn cats have been sleeping in it, so I put some blankets out there for them to lay on, and all the dogs have blankets now out and around. You can definitely tell that the weather has changed, you know. Like I said, it's been, you know, the lows here have been in the 20s the last few nights, and the highs, like today, it only got up to 33. So that's cold for here. I mean, especially in November. You know, deer season has started. My friend that hauls hay for me and my other friend that helps me on my place, they hunt on my place, and one of them actually got a deer and gave me the meat from it. Because for some personal reasons, I'm not probably going to deer hunt this year. And I don't want to go into all the reasons why, but I just don't feel like it's something I need to do this year. But yeah, I'm gonna do that. Go pick that up in a couple of days. Then, you know, the cattle are doing well. I've been putting hay out for them. The ponies and the horses are doing good. I posted some videos of Instagram of Trixie's a little punk, or as my grandma would call it, she's being a turd the other day. It was pretty funny. She knows that she's the bee's knees. So, yeah, I haven't been riding a lot because it's been rainy and cold here, and it's just, you know, when it's like that, the horses are miserable, and we're miserable, and so rode a couple of times last week, or a week before last. Didn't ride at all last week because I was getting ready to go to the Fiber Festival, and it was going to get cold while I was gone, so I had to do all my winterization with tarps and making sure everybody had wind breaks and straw and everything, so got that done. One of my former students came by and saw me. She had made me some really pretty earrings, and oh, here goes the Hallelujah chorus. I don't know if they're going to quit. Probably need to turn this off a minute. Maybe they'll quit in a minute. That reminds me, the coyotes are back. There were 2 packs of coyotes last night, and they were close to the house when I went outside. One of them was off to the east, and then there was a pack that was responding to, you know, it was like call and response out there. You know, and my thing with the coyotes is, if the coyotes are up here, I know the mountain lion is not here, because they will not be around when that mountain lion's around. So I would almost rather hear them than I would not, you know. But anyway, my former student came by, Rima, and she was fixing my earrings. She had put a really beautiful little quote in there about, you know, being brave and all this stuff. And those were some of my favorite earrings, but I had broken, they were chandelier earrings, and I had broken one of the hangers. So I'm actually going to meet her on Monday for lunch, and she's going to give it back to me. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at on the farm. You know, just trying to stay warm is our biggest challenge right now, making sure that everybody's got plenty of hay, making sure everybody's got water. You know, this time of year, the big time suck is making sure everybody's water is thawed out. You know, because the rabbit waterers will freeze and the chicken's water will freeze. And also, too, when the water is really cold, the animals don't like to drink. So I will take buckets of hot water out of the house and pour in their waterers and things like that. But other than that, you know, things are going along. You know, everybody seems to be doing, you know, bearing up pretty well. Nobody's really having too much of a struggle. Everybody's holding their weight good. Because we had a lot of grass this year, thankfully. All that rain helped us with a lot of grass. I do have quite a bit of hay out in the yard now, which always makes me feel good. So that's kind of where we're at here on the farm. You know, and we're just kind of hanging in there, doing the best that we can, making sure everybody stays warm and comfortable and gets through the winter okay. I was talking with somebody, I'm not sure right now, I'm not feeling the festive decorating holiday thing coming on. You know, normally I decorate real big for Christmas, and it's a big deal because I have my wreath making party. Right now, if you told me I had to do that, I'd be like, no. I'm just not feeling it this year. I think my depression is kind of manifesting itself in that way. You know, I'm doing what I've got to do and taking care of stuff like I've got to and doing okay as far as that goes, but I don't have any extra energy. And I spend a lot of energy when I decorate the house. If you go to my farm Facebook page and you go back to last year, there's 3 separate videos because they were too long to upload as individual videos of my house with all the Christmas trees. But I don't know if I'm going to do that this year. Right now, I'm not feeling it. I'm usually ready to start by now because it takes me pretty much the week of Thanksgiving to get everything set up. What I'm kind of thinking is I'm going to take this winter to get the house organized and to get some work done in the kitchen, because I want to sand and paint the kitchen cabinets while I'm off over Christmas. And you can't really do that when you've got decorations everywhere. So I'm kind of thinking I may use that as my my fallback. So we'll see. I've still got a couple of trees up in my spare room, so maybe I'll decorate those. I'll put some stuff outside. Sorry, my low battery warning came on there. I'll put some stuff outside, but and I'll make a wreath and put on my door, but right now I'm just not really feeling the decorating thing. So we'll see, and that may change. So, but anyway, so now let's go on and we'll finish up with a few final thoughts. Okay, so on my final thoughts, the first thing that I wanted to say was I really appreciate community. Oh, here comes Feathers out of her little hidey hole that she had made over there in the feed sacks. Are you good? All right, good girl. I really appreciate the kindness of community. There are a lot of different communities that I'm kind of a part of. I have my spiritual community, I have my horse people, I have my community of sciencey people, and I have my crafty community. You know, and it's nice to be a part of all those and see one another support. You know, see people who are willing to support you in all of those areas, and I'm very grateful for that. You know, as Toby said on the West Wing, you're my guys. You know, and tragedies are made less difficult, and good times are made sweeter because we're able to share them with our members of our community. And I think that that's really important. You know, kindness matters, and that's why I wanted to send a card to Miss Glenda's family, because I wanted them to know that she mattered to me. She was more than just a project or something like that. I also like watching the Have Your Yarn Wishes Granted things going around. I was very, very touched that so many people responded when I put up, I would just like a pattern for my Ravelry wish list. I think I got 7 or 8 patterns within the matter of like an hour. So I was very touched about that, and I thought that was incredibly sweet. You know, I like hearing about my friends' successes. You know, Laura wore her hat that she wrote the pattern for to Rhinebeck and had Mina Phillip, the knitting expat, compliment her on her hat. You know, and whatever you may feel about the big name people in the fiber industry, the fact is they are big name people, and for her to give Laura an unsolicited compliment, I think is a wonderful, wonderful thing, you know, because even though we shouldn't, you know, care what other people think, or we shouldn't feel, you know, have to be justified, it does matter. I mean, you like to know that you're a real knitter, I guess is the right word, or whatever. I mean, I don't feel like a knitter with a capital K at all compared to a lot of these ladies, because I've only been knitting seriously for a couple of years. I mean, I learned to knit about 20 years ago or 25 years ago, but I only really started knitting seriously about 2 years ago. And so, you know, having the support of a community to say, yes, you are a real knitter. You are a knitter with a capital K. You know, you can make a beaded shawl. You can make a sweater. You can design a hat. These things matter to people. Kindness always matters. Don't ever, when someone has experienced a good thing, don't undermine them. Don't, you know, always lift up people whenever possible. You know, even if you don't necessarily agree with them, if they've accomplished something, don't be envious, don't be jealous. Let's lift each other up. Let's build those bridges. You know, those things really do matter. One of the things that was talked about in that faculty development panel was one of the gentlemen that was there was one of our very few male African-American faculty members. And he talked about how, you know, it's kind of like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 75 years ago. Well, the second best time is today, so that you're planting the tree for future generations. And I kind of got to thinking about, you know, our legacy. And a couple of people, you know, talked to me about, you know, you're planting seeds in young minds that will grow far beyond my years of living on this planet. And that's true, I hope. And so he talked about a poem called The Bridge Builder, and I looked it up, and that's what I wanted to end on today. So if you'll bear with me here over Ellie Mae's complaining about somebody being on her bed. It's a poem called The Bridge Builder by Will Allen Dromgoole, I don't know, Dromgoole, Dromgoole, maybe. And it says, an old man going on a lone highway came at the evening cold and gray to a chasm vast, deep, and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream had no fear for him, but he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, said a fellow pilgrim near, you are wasting your strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day, and you will never again pass this way. You cross the chasm deep and wide. Why build this bridge at evening tide? The builder lifted his old gray head. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said. There are followed after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm that has been as naught to me, to that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building this bridge for him. So, I will leave you with that thought. The bridges that you build, you may never see the people who cross them. And I suppose that doesn't matter. You know, remember that the acts of kindness, the goodness is in the act, not in the reception of the act. The goodness is in the doing, right? The good work is in the doing. And so, let's build some bridges. Let's build some bridges for one another. And Willie has gone to sleep here in my farm sweater. So we're going to leave y'all with that thought. And until I see y'all again, y'all be good to each other. Yeah. And take care of each other. And Ellie Mae's still mad in there. And peace out, y'all. Bye. Yeah, bye.